Ja, het is echt ver. Good afternoon, members of Parliament, support staff, visitors in the public tribune, radio listeners, TV viewers, those following via social media, and the members of the media. Welcome to the continuation of the public meeting number 18 of the parliamentary year 2023-2024 for today, Monday, October 7th. I would like to give a special welcome to the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mrs. Marinka Gomes, and her support staff. We have established a quorum of, how many members? 11 members. Please stand for a moment of silence. I have received notice of absence from the following members. MP Egbert Duran, because of medical reasons with family. Does any member of parliament have any notification? MP Kotai, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to my colleagues, to the Minister of Finance, those in the Tribune, and those who are watching at home. I would just like to bring some attention on some chatter I've been hearing from individuals at the airport with the bidding process and the lack of fairness around it. Previously, the Minister of Tiat had stated that the airport told her an executive decision was made from the board in regards to Godard being granted the VIP lounge, even after other companies put up their bid. Currently, there's a talk of an RFP for the fast track and VIP services of passenger handling in the works. Why is an RFP needed when two local companies that are presently existing has already been performing these services for the past 20 years combined? Would these RFP participants face the same fate of an executive decision? Is the winning bid already set in stone for persons close to those at the airport? I have a list of questions which I will be officially sending the Minister of Tiat. And lastly, it is to my opinion that just like in 2022, the CEO of Schiphol, Mr. Dick Benschop, went to the Tweede Kamer to address the issues at Schiphol, the issues that they were facing at Schiphol. The same should happen right here. I would like to see the CEO answering these questions on the floor of Parliament. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Kotai. I now give the floor to MP Irion for your notification.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for emphasizing my notification. Good afternoon to my members of Parliament. Good afternoon to the Minister, her support staff. Good afternoon to the viewing public. Madam Chair, in preparation for this meeting today, I was going over the fact that we have at least 4, I believe, ministers today as MPs, and I started to question the fact of a potential conflict of interest, but probably not. But then when I looked at the addendum to look at what the support was, because I said at the end of the day, I could calculate. The Council of Ministers approved the addendum. So that means that they have the support already. So I'm assuming that at least 4 members of Parliament support this addendum. But today, when I looked at the documents and I also contacted the SG on this, I don't see any support from the Council of Ministers. So that means today, we are here in Parliament discussing an illegitimate document because the minister cannot, on her behalf, speak on behalf of country St. Martin. It needs to be approved by the Council of Ministers. So that would mean also if we approve this document today, that the Council of Ministers has an opportunity to go back and say, oh no, I don't agree with Parliament. It can't happen, Madam Chair. So I would advise, Madam Chair, especially as a new MP, a new chair, to seek clarification from the Minister on the fact that today we are discussing a document that I don't know the Council of Ministers even approve of, because if they didn't approve it, it wouldn't be here today. So that's a big risk. But Madam Chair, on top of that, it was stated that I went, for example, and sought approval from Curaçao before coming to Parliament. but the minister went to seek approval from Curacao before getting approval from her council of ministers, which is worse, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I would like confirmation on that, and I look forward to the answers.
Thank you for your notification, MP Irion. I saw another notification of MP Otley. Not anymore? Okay. Minister, seeing the notification of MP Irion, would you like to reply and clarify?
Good afternoon. Madam Chair. Yeah. Good afternoon, honorable members of Parliament, members in the Tribune. To clarify, the addendum has been discussed with the Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister and myself are very clear on the position where the addendum is concerned, and this matter will be handled tomorrow in terms of officially signing off.
Thank you for your clarification. Minister, we now have as an agenda point for this meeting approval of the notification. What? Seeing that the notification round is over, I assume it's a proposal of order, MP Otley? Okay, there's no notification anymore. Okay. So is there a proposal of order or not? Yes. By MP Irion?
Madam Chair, I propose that we actually go to a vote. I think this is a very bad precedent being set, Madam Chair, because the minister stated that she has a very strong agreement with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance is not the Council of Ministers, Madam Chair. So I would like to have the position of the Council of Ministers. Next week, we have the budget amendment. The budget amendment that is here today has been approved by the Council of Ministers. Any legislation that comes to Parliament is approved by the Council of Ministers, not on the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. So my proposal is that we go to a vote, because I don't want the fact that Parliament, which is supposed to be the last body, not going back to COM again for COM to say, hey, I don't agree with Parliament's position, because that could happen now too. We're in a very particular situation, Madam Chair, a very dangerous position that we're going to set now, that after COM approves, that we want COM to tell us, the Council of Ministers tell us, oh no, I don't agree with Parliament, we're going to proceed. That's what Curacao did. Curacao gave carte blanche to their COM. We didn't do that. I came back and made sure that our Parliament has the last decision, Madam Chair. So my proposal is that we go to a vote to see if we want to let them, any meeting today, let them have an urgent COM and approve, and do the right way, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Irion. I will adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes. Meeting adjourned. I hereby reopen this meeting. The Minister of Finance have made clear that she wanted to know the position of the members of Parliament before going to the Council of Ministers. And that's the reason that the addendum was shared with Parliament. That being said, we do have a proposal of order of MP Irian. I wasn't sure if it was second. Second. So now we go over to the vote. The proposal is to adjourn the meeting until there's a COMS approval to handle this meeting, including the addendum. Proposal to adjourn the meeting until COM handles the addendum. Roll call. Number 5. Is there anyone that would like to motivate their vote? MP Irian?
Madam Chair, you made a comment just now. You said that the minister wanted to come to Parliament for the approval first. Madam Chair, I think sitting in that chair, you have to be very careful with misrepresenting the truth. Because today, we came to vote based on the HLA, right? Addendum came. It was never to go back to Parliament, to go back to the Council of Ministers, because the HLA has been approved by the Council of Ministers already. So it can never be that we are now voting for the opinion of Parliament to go back to Council of Ministers again, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you sit on a chair where information is key, and you don't want to get caught up, right, in again, I'm going to say, misrepresenting the truth, because that's not true. Madam Chair, we are not a lame duck Parliament. I'm not going to allow a precedent to be set, all right, that be approved in Parliament and that COM could decide on our behalf if they want to execute or not. I think that's the wrong precedent being set, and I will be voting for the Council of Ministers to have the opportunity. I think it's even graceful by us, Parliament, to allow them the time to actually vote. Because I want to know the position of my fellow MP Lewis. I want to know my position of my fellow MP Luke Messalina. I want to know my position of my fellow MP Grisha Helga Martin. I want to know who else should I be having? I want to know their positions, because they should be approving in Council of Ministers first and then voting here. Because again, if the COM does not approve the addendum, it shouldn't even be inside of here. Maybe the COM, maybe MP Lewis has Minister Lewis in his other capacity has other opinions, other issues that he would want to see in the addendum too, that he didn't get the opportunity to do. And the same thing with MP Helliger. Well, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance has an understanding, so of course they are good already, but the others didn't have the opportunity to contribute. Madam Chair, that'll be all.
Thank you, MP Irian. MP York?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to everyone. Madam Chair, I would like to point out a continuing trend that in my short time, even before and now that I'm in this seat, that I'm realizing is one or two ministers speaking for all. And this is, we're not reinventing the wheel with this. This is something that has happened already. For example purposes, just a couple of months ago, we had a minister speaking on behalf of the same minister behind me right now, saying that we have an understanding, and then when you find out what the truth is, the understanding was not there, and it was a whole debacle where I was concerned. And we're running the same risk of that happening again, potentially. I'm not saying that that's the situation, but there's a reason why we have protocol, and protocol is all Council of Ministers need to come to an understanding before something comes to Parliament, and one or two ministers cannot speak on behalf of all ministers. This, the country on that behalf. This mistake has already happened a couple of months ago, and it would be uneducated for us to repeat the same thing again now. So that would
Thank you, MP York. MP Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, it is important to understand corporate governance in the way that things are to operate. We can sit here today, we can try to twist and turn and try to defend the actions, but the reality is the Council of Ministers represents the country. And as an ex-minister, in order for us to take a decision of such magnitude, you need the Council of Ministers to agree, or the majority of the Council of Ministers. It is said that the minister wanted the sentiment of Parliament before going to COM. You do that with a Central Committee meeting, you do that with an explanation, you do that with a technical team meeting that happened. You don't put us here today to vote and then say you're going to go to the Council of Ministers. Because what happens if the majority of the Council of Ministers does not agree with the way forward? So I say today that there's rules and regulations, and it's very interesting, very, very interesting to see how we will proceed and what precedent will be set today. Because if this goes ahead, then every other minister that feels that the COM may not approve can take it upon themselves, and it's their prerogative to bring it to Parliament without the Council of Ministers' approval. If a mistake or an error was made, own up to it. Let us take this time to then allow the COM to have an emergency meeting, approve, and we come back here and do it the correct way.
Thank you, MP Otley. MP Lacroix, you have the floor.
Madam Chair Lady, thank you. A blessed afternoon to one and all, to the Minister and her support staff, those in the Tribune, and my fellow MPs. Madam Chair Lady, the last meeting that we had, there was a proposal on the table to continue with the meeting, at least so we could get the questions out. Okay, that was turned down. The meeting was adjourned. To come to this today, I feel extremely deceived, especially because this feels like it's been rammed down my throat, and I have to make a decision on something that is not clear. This I consider to be treacherous to the utmost. I am extremely disappointed that something like this could take place today, because to our understanding, and I know that we for sure on this side felt that this was approved in COM before. For it to reach now here, and we're hearing that it's going to be approved tomorrow, shame, shame, shame. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Lacroix. MP Westcott Williams, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, we can discuss we can discuss the proposal without looking at, it's not on, or is it something?
It in here? Yes? Now we go. Thank you. Madam Chair Lady, my apologies, but I was saying we can discuss the proposal before us now without looking at where we came from with this matter here. The matter being that we received from the government, so the entire COM, I guess, a proposal for a headline agreement in which it was stated that with the reservation of the approval of Parliament. Several discussions have been held subsequently before coming to Parliament's approval of the headline agreement. In addition, of course, we had a change in the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance, who found herself confronted with this headline agreement approved by a previous COM, came to Parliament, at which time several members of the previous COM indicated that the reason for the headline agreement in the format that it was in was because, and I quote, our backs were against the wall. The discussions pursued, and the Parliament understood from the Minister of Finance currently that there might have been an opening for changes to this headline agreement, which came down because the government's backs were against the wall. I am cognizant of a letter, a communication in the pieces that we received from the central bank at the time saying, absolutely not. Nothing could have happened to that headline agreement presented to Parliament last year. The Minister of Finance came to Parliament and said there just might be a small window of opportunity. Parliament said to the Minister, and now I paraphrase, go and let us know what the opportunity is. And several discussions have been held subsequently. Madam Chair Lady, if I am incorrect, I would like you to correct me, please, because I remember the Minister stating in a meeting here that she came to Parliament before to understand the sentiments of Parliament. That's not something we're hearing today. This has not come up today. Whether I agree with it, you would have seen from my response to the Minister at the time. However, the one responsible, the one according to our Constitution responsible to the Parliament is the Minister. And the Minister said in a previous meeting how she planned to go about this little window of opportunity that she encountered, which resulted in the addendum before us. So, Madam Chair Lady, this thing about, oh yeah, this is the first time we're hearing about it, and be truthful and be educated, etc., etc., I heard it before. I heard it from the Minister right before, sitting in front of us right now. So, Madam Chair Lady, now I can't vote to decide for the Minister whether she should go to COM or what should happen, or COM should have a meeting. We're here as Parliament with the Minister presenting a position and the way she wishes to address it. If it is not the right way, then Parliament has other means to deal with the question of, do we want to approve the addendum and the headline agreement before us? But Madam Chair Lady, the reason why the headline agreement is still on the books is because the Minister was asked to come with a proposal with a little window of opportunity with some improvements to the headline agreement. That's what we have before us now. It's not a retraction, it's an improvement on what was there by a previous government. So, Madam Chair Lady, we're in motivating my vote, and I hope to have indicated how I feel about the proposal to tell the Minister go and come back, go to come have a meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. MP De Wever, you now have the chance to motivate your vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good afternoon to everyone here in the room and viewing and listening as well. You know, since we started this discussion, it's been very, very difficult to comprehend the complexities of this proposal. And what I will say is that the technical team was made available to us last week to come in and go through different parts of this proposal, this agreement, that we were not, well, let me just speak for myself, that I was not certain about, that I was not fully understanding. And for that, I do want to tell the Minister, thank you for allowing them to come in to answer the extra questions that we had. But if we're coming down today, so knowing that we had that technical meeting to questions, and then coming here today to begin the second round and not be able to ask my questions based on the additional information we had in the technical meeting, it's very unfortunate because I have a lot of questions. So I cannot vote to support adjourning this meeting now because of the fact that I have a lot of questions and I only have 10 minutes in the second round. So I hope I've made myself very clear. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP De Wever, for the motivation of your vote. I, as a member, would also like to motivate my vote. I can recall, same as my colleague, MP Westcott Williams, that the Minister made it quite clear the reason why she brought the addendum to the floor of Parliament before asking the approval of COM. She was there very clear in, and it was mentioned in previous meetings. So I will also make it therefore clear why I cannot support the adjournment of this meeting. We now go over to the voting.
MP Viren Kotai.
Against.
MP Francisco La Cruz.
For.
MP Lyndon Lewis. Against. MP Luke Marcelina.
Against.
MP Franklin Myers.
Against.
MP Omar Otley.
For.
MP Ludmila de Weaver.
Against.
MP Sarah Westcott Williams.
Against.
MP Darrell York.
For.
MP Richnel Brug.
Against.
MP Melissa Gums.
Against.
MP Artwell Irian.
For.
Vice Chair Lady Shamira Roseberg.
Against. Four members for the proposal and 9 against. The proposal has therefore been rejected and we'll continue with the meeting. We have as agenda point for this meeting approval of the Outline Agreement ENNIA, including Annexes A, B, and C, IS 621-2023-2024, dated April 19, 2024. Before we go over to the agenda point, as this is a public meeting, allow me to remind you for the introduction of the uses of interruptions during the public meetings. The following guideline applies in accordance with Article 43 of the Rules of Order. The chairperson may permit interruptions. These interruptions should aim to seek clarification, challenge assertions, or contribute additional information, and should consist of brief remarks or questions without introduction. The chairperson will ensure order and decorum during the meetings and the use of interruptions. Members, ministers, and guests must maintain parliamentary decorum and refrain from making offensive or disorderly interruptions. Members will be allowed 3 interruptions per agenda point. The interruptions are to be posed from the lectern placed in the Legislative Hall. It is important to know that this meeting is a continuation of the meeting that started on June 27, 2024, and continued on September 6th and September 26, 2024. The current status of the interruptions are as follows. MP Sarah Westcott Williams, 1 interruption left. MP Richnel Brug, 3 interruptions left. MP Egbert Doran, 1 interruption left. MP Melissa Gums, 3 interruptions left. MP Artwell Irian, no interruptions left. MP Viren Kotay, 3 interruptions left. MP La Cruz, 2 interruptions left. MP Omar Otley, 1 interruption left. MP Shamira Roseberg, 3 interruptions left. MP Ludmila de Weaver, 2 interruptions left. MP Darrell York, 1 interruption left. MP Lyndon Lewis, 3 interruptions left. MP Myers, 3 interruptions left. MP Luke Marcelina, 3 interruptions left. We go over to the agenda point number 2. Approval of the Outline Agreement ENNIA, including Annexes A, B, and C, IS 621-2023-2024, dated April 19, 2024. On April 19, 2024, Parliament received a letter from the Minister of Finance with a request for a public meeting of Parliament seeking the approval for the Outline Agreement, Resolution ENNIA, including its annexes A, B, and C. In the letter of the Minister of Finance, noted that the Outline Agreement Resolution ENNIA necessitates a long-term financial commitment from St. Martin, and that he was making this request with great respect for Parliament, particularly in consideration of the budget authority established inter alia in Articles 100, 101, and 102 of the Constitution. It is important to know that Parliament held a central committee that commenced on September 27, 2024, and ended on April 15th, 2024. No, 2020. Correction? Okay, there's a little correction made on September 27, 2023, and ended on April 15, 2024. All answers to the questions posed in the Central Committee were received by Parliament. According to the Outline Agreement, the agreement sets out the main conditions for a partial relaunch of various parts of the ENNIA Group and a controlled settlement of former ECL with government and CBSC funding, the resolution. The parties commit to the full elaboration of the resolution and to constructively negotiate, approve, and comply with the relevant legal requirements in this regard, keeping in mind the urgency of the matter and within the limited time frame provided in Article 3. The agreement also states that the parties, by signing the outline agreement, confirm to each other that they will each commit sufficient resources and manpower to elaborate and eventually implement the resolution with high priority, including to take all necessary actions to mitigate the risk of the resolution. In Article 14 of the agreement, it states that before entering into this outline agreement, the parties have made this subject to obtaining the necessary approvals as prescribed by the applicable legislation and regulations, the state regulations of Curaçao and Sint Maarten, and the related national ordinances, and that the parties will take all actions necessary or appropriate to obtain these approvals as soon as possible. In the term sheets, which is Annex C to the outline agreement, the agreement/approval by the Parliament of Sint Maarten to the outline agreement resolution ENNIA is taken up as a suspensive condition. Hence this agenda point for this meeting today, and the importance of Parliament's approval in this matter. At the start of this agenda point, the Minister of Finance gave a presentation to Parliament on the outline agreement. Thereafter, members of Parliament were given the opportunity to speak to the agenda point in round 1. The meeting was then adjourned to allow the minister sufficient time to prepare the answers to the questions posed. The minister returned on September 6, 2024, to answer the questions in the first round, and members of Parliament were given the opportunity to ask clarifications in the first round. After brief remarks by the minister, the meeting was adjourned until further notice to allow the minister time to prepare the answers to the clarification questions. The meeting continued on September 26, 2024, with the ministers answering the points of the clarification in the first round. The meeting was then adjourned to allow members of Parliament more time to pursue the confidential documents submitted by the Minister of Finance and to invite the civil servants of the Ministry of Finance for technical discussions on the matter prior to going over to the second round of this agenda point. This technical briefing was held on Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. Additionally, Parliament also received the addendum that the minister referred to, and it has been shared with the members of Parliament. This document is registered under IS 072-2024-2025, dated September 24th, 2024. We now go over to the second round. The speaking time in the second round is 10 minutes. According to the speakers list, I give the floor to MP Ludmila de Wever. MP de Wever, you have the floor.
Thanks again. Thanks again, Madam Chair Lady. I want to go over the fact that from day one, when this was presented to us, I had questions from the perspective of my experience of dealing with policyholders of pension and in regards of calculating the future, or how do you say, like the obligations, right, that an entity would have when they needed to pay out. And from day one, it's the, how do you say, the hesitation that I've had with this agreement because of the fact that when I asked the first time around, you know, how are we making up this number? I was constantly hearing 3,000 plus. I was never getting an exact number of policyholders. And then when I got an article lately, it specifically said 3,084. So that first sort of hesitation I have with it was a little bit calmed a little bit, or I got a little bit more comfort from it. But then I went back again to the fact that, you know, when I'm in my former capacity as an external auditor, I look at numbers and I have to make sure that the numbers are reflecting real human beings. There's a way that I test it. I will have a list of policyholders, which is the work an actuarian would do. I would have a list of policyholders that would have their, you know, contribution or their salary attached to it, and then I would be able to say, does this exist for an actual human being? And up to today, I never really got that list. And even though we got a projection of sort of outflows that we could review when we had the technical team in, it was just, for me, for my purposes of understanding financial figures, it has been very, very difficult for me to do so. And when I move on to the fact that, you know, I'm looking at facts. I'm looking at facts that I have received from day one of this agreement coming up, of us having to bail out a company that from the first discussion I said that, you know, we find ourselves here in the position of bailing out a company where I feel like there was such major collusion that happened that I'm trying to now see, moving forward a year later, if I can get any more comfort from the collusion that happened back then. And then you look at the players. You look at the players involved from the pension provider. You look at the players involved from the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin. And then you look at the players involved in the sense of the policyholders who we're trying to give some sort of comfort to, that their pensions are protected coming, you know, going forward for the remainder of that, of the time that it's going to become due. And I have struggled coming into this meeting this morning. I have very, very rarely ever found myself frustrated and in a position where I don't know enough. So I go back to the fact that when we had when this meeting ended, when we adjourned this meeting to gather more information, I will go over the items that I took notes on that require, for me, a little bit more explanation. And one of my colleagues asked the question of when was the last payment that we got from Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin, and we were told that it was 2019. And my notes on that was that I can't trust the entity that let that happen once again. And I go back to the fact that this is not something about what the current Minister of Finance finds herself dealing with or inheriting, but the comfort that I'm looking for is if the last payment that we received from the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin is in 2019, and I got nothing in 2020, and I got nothing in 2021, and in 2022, I got a small payout of 1.3 million, which isn't even the amount that we're supposed to be contributing towards it. My question regarding this is to understand, like, what more comfort can I get from something like this? Because everything that I have written down sounds like hope, like wishing and hoping that things will go the right way, especially when I feel, just like the minister told us last week, or the last time that the minister was here in this public meeting, was that what we experienced was unjust by the central bank. So the comfort that I am requesting is, where is the hope that I need that the entity that has spearheaded this proposal is going to take some sort of responsibility as well, especially as we move forward in the future. And just like, You see where most banks or financial institutions will have insurance for these kind of cases. What do we have in place when this happens? Do we have something like the FDIC in the US, where when people are putting money into their bank accounts, this is the depositors, not the owners, the person that have deposits somewhere? Is there some insurance that the bank is now going to help us implement or say the right way of going about it? Because it just seems that I remember my colleague MP Melissa Gumbs next to me talked about the institutions. She specifically called out the institutions that have failed under the watch of the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin. And here we have two countries, Curaçao and St. Martin, having to clean up the regulators' mess. And we're now putting our, again, as MP Gumbs just reminded me. And then, you know, here I'm making the difficulty that I have is that I have to make a decision that has a 30-year impact on the people of this country for policyholders that not only already paid in to their future obligations that they're expecting to get when they are retired, but now we have to go in and save those policyholders who already paid it and pay in again because the person that's still involved in this whole agreement is still there. And this is the struggle that I'm having with it. Not even to talk about the fact that, you know, unfairly, once again, our country is being forced to make a decision that has a deadline on it within 3 days, that is becoming due, that is attached to interest expenses, that if we don't do this, they're going to attach it to higher interest of the loans that we had that we needed when COVID was in a bad time. So it's like the worst case of a catch-22, that it doesn't matter which way I go, I feel, for lack of a better word, screwed over. And it's not a curse word, so I think I'm allowed to say that respectfully. But it's like a screwdriver. That's why I think I'm allowed to say it, right? But this is the struggle that I have, is that I am supposed to be able to understand the information that comes from a minister when they are coming to this floor and seeking support. And right now, I feel stuck at the fact that, again, the person spearheading this is the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin, and I don't even know how to move forward from that one fact. That right now, I will ask again the minister, through you, Madam Chair Lady, that, you know, who's to say that everything that's happening here isn't really going to be to make everything whole, to make the existing companies or the new companies that are going to form through this agreement, that through the approval of this agreement, that, you know, once everything is kosher and copacetic and everything is good again, and no one has any concerns of the future payouts, that it's not just going to go back to business as usual with the main player doing exactly what they did before, which is neglect their one task, their primary task of being a regulator of financial entities. How much time do I have left? A minute? I know I don't have enough time. I honestly really don't have enough time. I will say this. All I did was I wrote to every comment I had, hope, 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 hope. So I'm hoping that when the Minister of Finance is able to come back here and give us a little bit last push of why this is the ultimate best option we have, after the minister has put in the addendum in it, where she explicitly told us that 37 million was saved, contrary to the first time it was presented. And what I wanted to say to end off here today is, if 37 million was saved by a proposal spearheaded by the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin, how do I not know that there's more to save? And we're getting the best outcome we possibly can get from this. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP De Wever. The next speaker is MP Irian. MP Irian, you have the floor.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the Minister and her support staff. Good afternoon to the members of Parliament. Good afternoon to the viewing public. Madam Chair, I had the opportunity to listen to the Honorable Minister's interview this morning, and it was very, I would say, insightful, but also very less ironic that hearing certain words. Because when I listened again to the meeting in June when the minister was here, it's a stark contrast, actually a 180 to what was said in June. The interview today sounds a lot like when I was presenting the HLA in Parliament. Madam Chair, if I go back to, and I believe also, Madam Chair, that it shows the difference between an election period and the election reality, Madam Chair. Because as you mentioned, and Madam Chair and MP Westcott mentioned, you guys highlighted things that the minister said. I don't know which meeting that was. I have the meeting down to the T, but when I look at the meeting, I know for sure what the minister said to me in June, to us, the members of Parliament, that the minister cannot, in her good conscience, advise the Parliament to go ahead with this agreement. That's what the minister said. And she said also that the 4 million guilders we'll be getting from the central bank could be going to justice and education, among others, Madam Chair. The minister said that she would bring she would be getting money back to us because it's important. The minister also said since then we would have the first rights of a refusal. Madam Chair, you can scan through the document. This addendum today does not have anything with Mullaby inside of it, Madam Chair. Anything. So when I hear, again, the comments that were made pre-election, you emotionally worked up the public about these opportunities, but as MP De Beaver said, she was looking for hope. But based on the answers today, that hope was taken away, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, when we look at, I even decided to maybe look at the definition of savings. If you look at the addendum and you look at the original Outline Agreement, the distribution key is the same. That means what we were contributing in the Outline Agreement is exactly what we're contributing now in the addendum. Nothing has changed. Nothing. So the exact amount that we're contributing is the same. So let's say, for example, we were contributing 2 million guilders. We're not contributing 1 million guilders now in the addendum. So what are we saving? Is a difference, Madam Chair, between savings and projections. Yes, in the peak facility that the minister said she took us out of that, but it doesn't mean we're going to use the peak facility. I'm not God, you're not God. So there's also opportunity that we never use the peak facility. It also means there's a potential that we use the peak facility more than 2 times. But at the end of the day, it's not a savings. A savings means right now, in this moment, every year, right, we have a reduction in the amount we have to contribute. The distribution key, Madam Chair, is exactly the same. That has not changed. So we are not saving. In addition to that, I asked the minister about the contribution of Suriname and the Best Islands. Suriname, Madam Chair, in the footnote of the addendum of the minister states that the Suriname individuals, the Suriname policyholders, will be seen as persons that lived in Curaçao, and that Curaçao will take them up. It's in her own addendum, not mine. It's a footnote. In addition to that, in the original HLA, the Best Islands were already covered by the Dutch Central Bank. In the Waarborg sum, they already were covered. And then the question came up, yes, but it was said in a technical meeting, yes, but we're making it clearer. That doesn't mean it wasn't there. Making it clearer doesn't mean it wasn't there. So that means, Madam Chair, there's no savings there either. There's no savings because it was never a concern for us because the Dutch Central Bank took it up. And that's not only my opinion, I also went to verify that point. Madam Chair, I would like to confirm via you, through the minister, wasn't there already security for the Best Islands through the Waarborg sum? And the point of saying the Dutch Central Bank, and the point of saying we're making it clearer, of course it can't be clearer. The agreement isn't signed off, so we can't continue the process. Madam Chair, when I look at the hype, and I'm not going to lie, I was even excited to see Mullaby potentially in the addendum. If you look back at the presentation, Madam Chair, and the whole of Parliament was excited for that, yes, we take him at Mullaby, and this addendum has nothing to do with Mullaby. There's no first rights of refusal inside this addendum, none. So what we approve today has nothing to do with Mullaby. But again, you work the Parliament up about it, the people of St. Martin about it, and that opportunity is not there. Matter of fact, in the technical team, it was told to us, Mullaby is not ours. Mullaby is not ours. When we look at the I also asked the minister, how much are we contributing to Suriname in the best? She said, we can't break it down. We can't separate it. From my understanding, when I was there, we were the HLA, we were contributing 30,000 guilders or less to Suriname. That's a far, far cry from 37 million guilders, Madam Chair. And that's the information that I have, the information that they should have also, Madam Chair. Again, I want to focus on the fact that we are contributing the exact same amount. There is no savings. These are projections. And also in the calculations brought forward by the minister, they use top-line projections. You could also use bottom-line projections. You don't have to use top-line projections. And even in the last meeting, it was said we would have a sort of a matching the rights of a bid for Mother Bay. Even that is bad, Madam Chair, because as my fellow MP La Cruz mentioned, going over to having individuals, maybe Ansari himself, overbidding for Mother Bay, and then having us pay for it is a far, far cry from actually being able to own Mother Bay. And again, do we have the money to do that? Yes, I said it before, yes. Currently, we already have an opportunity to buy Mother Bay. But where's the plan to purchase Mother Bay? There's none. As I mentioned before, it was just an emotional hijacking before election because there's no plan to execute this. And again, it's a shame because the people of St. Martin will be disappointed when they come to that realization. I'd like to ask, Madam Chair, will the distribution key change now that St. Martin is no longer paying for the best according to the minister? So will the distribution key change, Madam Chair? So that means if it doesn't change by us not contributing to the best in Suriname, then we're paying the same amount. Nothing has changed. What will happen if St. Martin is unable to send funds and still needs to use the peak facility, and how does this impact the budget? What does the separation of the administration between St. Martin and Curaçao mean for setup costs? Because saying that we only going to focus on administration now means we just don't do bookkeeping. I'm pretty sure we're not saving millions of guilders doing bookkeeping. I'm 100% sure we're not saving millions of guilders doing bookkeeping. Madam Chair, when I look at the total amount, the 500 million guilders, and the minister said that, and you take the 6.49%, it's 30 million guilders. So even if we separate it, no matter how you play around with the numbers, Madam Chair, our contribution remains the same. It's just projections. It's not savings because, and I'd like to ask the minister, through you, Madam Chair, if we don't use the PIC facility, if the Dutch Central Bank covers the best islands, what savings are we getting on a yearly basis? So within our HLA before and the current addendum, what savings are we getting without projections, Madam Chair? What savings are we getting without projections? Madam Chair, you said I have how much time?
36 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I look at where we are today and the comments that were made to Parliament 2 months ago, and now I see that the addendum doesn't bring anything else different in terms of what we had before, but what it does bring is more confusion, and it shows that we played politics 6 weeks ago, but not today. We have a reality before us, because then we had the looming 6% above us also, and now it's the same argument now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Irian. The next speaker would have been MP Doran, but as I mentioned, he's currently not here because of medical reasons. The following MP would have been MP Marlin, but he is no longer a member of Parliament. I now come to MP La Cruz. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, I have a couple questions and, a couple comments because, like I said, I am extremely disappointed in how this whole thing is going, and I must agree with MP Weaver with how this was brought to us and how we are dealing with it today. I must commend somewhat the Minister of Finance for individually reaching out, I don't know about the rest, but to my person and explaining things or, giving some line to it. I must commend her for that, but I am still very much perplexed, and that is frustrating. Madam Chair Lady, in the last few weeks, I've understood and I've come to get the feeling that something went wrong when it comes to tying the COVID loan with the ENNIA saga. But Madam Chair Lady, the feeling came across as if it was, and we could be clear about it, that the previous Minister of Finance was the one that put us in this situation, okay? And then I have a question, because Article 101 from the Constitution states that Parliament must approve any borrowing that will be done by government. So, the first agreement was signed by Cont, but also approved in Parliament. And if that is not the case, I would like someone to explain me that. Because we signed on to the COVID loans, and if we signed on to the COVID loans, were the COVID loans agreed by Parliament? That is my question.
MP La Cruz, we have an interruption from MP Gums. MP Gums?
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. And good afternoon to everyone. But just for the MP to clarify, the overall agreement has not been approved by Parliament for ENNIA. In fact, we had, as you mentioned in your guidelines, that lead up to it, that meeting concluded in April, where we were told that the then minister would need 2 weeks to come back, but then, of course, a new government swore in not too long after. So that overlap was there, hence why we're here today with this addendum to that, hopefully in a court. And all of that is the package that we're now deliberating to be signed today. So just for the ENNIA thing, that was not approved by Parliament. It was approved by Cont and then it was supposed to come here, but ultimately we also had an election in January, so it did not get here on time.
Thank you, MP Gums. MP La Cruz, you may continue.
So what was agreed then in Article 7, Sub 3, that was elucidated? This is the lane over the income self-financing COVID laning. This was literally part of it. 3.7, Article 7, 3. It's there. That's one. So I'd like some clarification on that, please, Minister. Then, during the Hurricane Irma, I was part owner of a business that actually took a very hard hit because the then government or minister decided to place a dump in front of my business. Okay, we continued paying employees and debts and rent. Now, this is something that it was a business that we could have opened up right away because we had minimal damage 1 week, 2 weeks after. But because of the dump, that could not happen. A choice that was made by the then government to pick up the garbage from Simpson Bay and drop it on that location, to pick it up again, to then drop it to what we call now the second dump, right? I don't see why, or maybe it's possible that I could have said, hey, you know what, 10 people lost there, and we're going to ask the government now to pay for, or the rest of the population to pay for this mistake that was made by others, okay? So now we're asking the population to pay and put in to cover 3,000, what is in it for the others, okay? And that is why I emphasize multiple times that any agreement that does not have Mullet Bay, and when I'm speaking of Mullet Bay, the option that is on the table right now makes absolutely no sense to me. The minister before me elucidated somewhat about it with the way it would be on a bid. Makes absolutely no sense. I will not, and I don't understand why we have not moved in a direction to go into an irrevocable purchase agreement for Mullet Bay. One way or the other, Mullet Bay is on St. Martin and it belongs to St. Martin and it should remain so. Madam Chair Lady, in de leenovereenkomst herfinanciering COVID-lening, Article 7.2, it states, and I'm going to read one first. Einde looptijd, nieuwe kortlopende herfinanciering, St. Maarten. Het land lost de nieuwe kortlopende herfinanciering St. Maarten aan het einde van de looptijd af. Hetgeen betekent dat de verbintenis met de staat tot de terugbetaling van de nieuwe kortlopende herfinanciering nieuwe onmiddellijk opeisbaar is en de staat alsdan onmiddellijk terugbetaling van de hoofdsom en opgelopen rente kan vorderen. Point 2, it says, in het lid 1 bepaalde geldt niet indien partijen uiterlijk op 10 september 2024 een nieuwe overeenkomst hebben gesloten met inachtnemen van de volgende uitgangspunten. Punt A. Er wordt slechts onderhandeld over de volgende punten. Punt 1. De vorm van de nieuwe lening. Punt 2. Aflossingsmomenten. Punt 3. De looptijd. En B. Voor de overige gelden. De voorwaarden als reeds overeengekomen als deze overeenkomst. Madam Chair Lady, what I'm understanding here, that there was a possibility before the 10th of September that government could have discussed a new form for this loan, a new time to pay it back if we realize we were not ready. Why was this not done? Why are we now in this situation that we are in? Why are we forced to come to a decision, a very unpopular decision, today? This is not fair, and I don't know about the others, but it is not fair to me because I was not part of the government then. I wasn't sitting as a minister, and I was not part of no parliament then. But now I'm expected to make a decision like this that I do not agree with. I do not like haphazard things to be thrown down my throat. Madam Chair Lady, without an agreement, an irrevocable agreement to purchase Mullet Bay, and if we are asking the rest of the population to bail out a company, an individual, whoever is doing that, the rest of the population, there must be some type of benefit to them. And I don't see it. I don't see the benefit to them other than being penalized even more because of the mistakes of others. And like the minister said, maybe not reading. But now I feel like no one has read. Very disappointing. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP La Cruz. The following speaker would have been MP Emmanuel, but he's no longer a member of parliament. After that, I myself would have been a speaker, but seeing that I'm the chair right now, I cannot. MP Sylveria Jacobs would have been following me, but also she's no longer a member of parliament. I now give the floor to MP Brug.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, St. Martin. Good afternoon, Madam Chair Lady. Good afternoon to Minister of Finance and your support team. Madam Chair Lady, through you, I share the sentiments of certain MPs that have spoken before me. The MP La Cruz stated, why are the other population, the rest of the population being penalized for just these 3,000? I understand the connection. I don't agree with the way things are going right now, but I understand the connection. Because these 3,000 are they're not just a number. They're pensioners. You see, pension is something that the AOV people think you're supposed to live off of. But in reality, it's not. You're always supposed to have something extra to pay in order for you to live off. That's what pension is. And persons at the time invested their money in ENNIA to have that extra finance that they don't have to burden government, burden their family, and burden other individuals for them to live comfortable. It's unfortunate what has happened today. It's really unfortunate the situation that we're in today. But if we don't find a solution as government, as parliamentarians, as ministers, these 3,000 are going to end up at our doorstep. These 3,000 are going to end up at our doorstep at VSA asking for social welfare. It was stated already that this country can't afford this extra burden. They can't afford it by supporting ENNIA. They can't afford it by allowing these 3,000 to come. So at the end of the day, it is a double-edged sword. It is a double-edged sword. The speaker before me, MP Ludmila de Wever, spoke about not having comfort in the persons that dropped the ball. We are putting back the trust in them again. The previous minister, I'll go back to this, but the previous minister, we always say, no, previous speaker before me said, why are we involving ourselves in a private company? It means that later on, other companies are going to come and ask for government to do a bailout. But government intervening in companies is not something new. It has been done before in the past. It's been done with financial institutions such as ABN AMRO, ING, KLM, and some of them were successful. But in my research, I realized that there are also some unsuccessful stories. Hero Bank. Government intervened then. It helped for a little while, but after a while, the company, the bank, filed for bankruptcy. That is where my colleague MP Ludmila de Wever is coming from. What assurance do we have that what is presented to us today will be successful? We're going to hope, we're going to pray that it's going to be something positive, because that's all we can do right now. To be honest with you, that's all we can do right now. But we have to do something for those individuals that are policy holders. We dropped the ball because the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin, hear the name, Curaçao and St. Martin, we are also responsible. That's where the connection is. That's where the connection is, Madam Chair Lady. I am going to ask, through you, Madam Chair Lady, that in the future, in the near future, let's see how we can hold that institution accountable. Let's see what can we put in place, because look, mistakes were made, people are suffering, and it's our responsibility as government, be it legislative or executive branch, it's our responsibility to look into the matter and start to see how we can prevent this from ever happening again. We have to hold those responsible accountable. We have to make sure protect the victims, those policyholders. We have to make sure protect them, because at the end of the day, we are here to represent not just those that weren't, not just the 3,000, but all of the population. So let's make sure that there are no more victims, that this is going to be a lesson learned, and that we're going to put things in place, Madam Chair Lady, through you, to make sure this never happens again. And my question is, what do you think we can do to hold those responsible accountable? Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Brug. I now give the floor to MP Sarah Westcott-Williams.
Good afternoon, and once again, and thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, allow me to start, and like several of my colleagues indicated, being in a second round of a public meeting, and unless otherwise is decided, each one of us have 10 minutes to react or pose additional questions. Yet I want to get back to a discussion that led to a vote in the Parliament here earlier. And the attempt was to actually instruct the minister to go back and come with a decision by COM regarding especially the addendum as presented by the Minister of Finance. Madam Chair Lady, this matter is actually a tenet of our democratic system, the ministerial responsibility, the one or ones responsible to Parliament for decisions, proposals, etc. Madam Chair Lady, when I look at least one of the documents that have us in this time crunch right now, it would be, like a colleague of mine referred to earlier, namely MP La Cruz, this herfinancieringsovereenkomst, the refinancing agreement between St. Martin and the Dutch government. Madam Chair Lady, ironically, this agreement, and I think that the Parliament of St. Martin, in going forward, not on the topic of the ENNIA agreement per se, but generally speaking, should look at this herfinancieringsovereenkomst, the refinancing agreement, and others such as, for what they actually mean and entail. This so-called refinancing agreement signed off by the government back in 2023 is, and here's where I use the word ironic, because it's ironic that the conditions in this agreement stem, as the agreement says, from the Charter. The Charter, and specifically the article in the Charter giving assistance, help, and beistand where necessary and required. And I don't think we could disagree on many things, but we can disagree, we should not disagree on the fact that the COVID loans were such an instance of where we needed help as St. Martin. But when one looks at the agreements reached based on that refinancing agreement, if there's one thing I would ask the minister to do in this context, not before this headline agreement and addendum are signed, but to make a strong effort to discuss these type of agreements and how they are made. This agreement isn't just by, well, if you don't agree to the ENNIA agreement, you're going to have to pay the higher interest. It is a fundamental issue on the basis of the charter, which should allow us assistance when necessary. And it therefore also is not only of the government, of the minister, but also of Parliament to review these type of agreements and the pressure that is applied to push through things like the Dutch government's view on the matter of ENNIA. And why is it that for St. Martin, after the year 2023, and by the 10th of October 2024, after the expiration of that year, we don't have the opportunity anymore to have a discussion on refinancing? No, apparently that is not the case. We don't have the opportunity to look at the refinancing agreement and decide, well, where can we seek arbitration? In fact, this agreement between two partners in the Dutch kingdom would be settled, solved, or any dispute about it in the court in The Hague. And we're talking about two countries, two partner countries within the Dutch kingdom. But that question regarding arbitration also brings my concern with respect to what is before us right now. Who monitors the implementation of this 30-year agreement? And that is the answer I would like the minister, if not now, to definitely provide Parliament with. No Parliament, not this one, a next one, a coming one, can oversee the potential consequences, risk, and threats for a 30-year period. So who monitors the implementation? And I join my colleagues in thanking the technocrats of the ministry for providing the information to the members of Parliament and the beautiful overview of how it's going to look like organizationally wise. But who monitors the implementation? If some little thing go wrong, some expectation cannot be met, who checks that? Who raises a flag when something ain't going the way? We're talking about projections for 30 years down the line, 30 years. But we believe by just accepting the way it is presented to us, that is okay. And we can't ask, we should be asking, who monitors the implementation? Who on behalf of St. Martin says to the minister, we're getting started in 2027, and let's say by 2030 would say to the minister, Minister, this thing ain't working like we anticipated back when Parliament approved it in 2024. Minister, we need to secure the monitoring of this agreement on behalf of St. Martin. Because there are answers that you cannot provide today. Why? Because they are in the future. They are in the future. You cannot predict them today. You don't have that crystal ball in front of you to give answers ahead of time. I want to come back to the head financierings over incomes, the refinancing agreement. Has this agreement been executed as signed off to? Has St. Martin received, as per that agreement, a macroeconomic overview of what this potential matter would mean for St. Martin long term? That was part of the head financierings agreement. Has that been done? Do we have that macroeconomic overview as per the head financierings over incomes? Because that was agreed when St. Martin signed off to it. By the way, in fact, question to the minister. Back in maybe late 2022, In fact, again, with the same regulatory body of the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin, it was decided to create a technical committee to look at things like a macro overview for St. Martin, specifically for St. Martin. Was that committee ever activated? And if it was activated, what is the work of that committee? What has that committee done? Guess who was running or supposed to run the committee? The Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin. Did we get that kind of information so that we in here as Parliament could say, this is what the decision we take today, the consequences of years to come? And I think at the end of the discussions, the minister presented, we get a signed-off headline agreement based on the fact that in the refinancing agreement signed off between St. Martin and the Dutch government, it was decided that such a decision regarding ENNIA must come. Otherwise, all other countries got the opportunity to say, well, okay, I ain't too happy with this particular agreement. Give me another year, 18 months maybe. Let me get to the bottom of it, sink our teeth into it. And in the meantime, yeah, you're going to charge us the higher interest loan. Okay, we understand that. We're going to have to pay a little extra.
You have a few more seconds.
So
5 more seconds.
I think what we should ask ourselves today, with the addendum before us now, are we better off with the ENNIA agreement, yes or no? The answer to that, in my opinion, from what I have seen and read, is yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. We now have come to an end of the speaking in the second round. I will adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes to caucus with the minister to see how much time she needs to prepare the answer. Meeting adjourned. I hereby reopen the meeting. Minister, have you decided how much time you need to return back to Parliament?
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, honorable members of Parliament, Griffier, my support staff, persons in the Tribune, citizens tuned in via social media, radio, and most importantly, the St. Martin ENNIA policyholders under the sound of my voice, good afternoon. The necessary documents have been submitted to Parliament for review. Based on my research and presentations, I respectfully request that Parliament approves the Outline Agreement Resolution ENNIA, including Annexes A, B, and C, along with the approval of the addendum to the Outline Agreement Resolution ENNIA and the term sheet for the matching right on Mullet Bay. As I expressed during the public meetings on September 6th and September 26, 2024, I firmly believe that the addendum provides significant additional clarification regarding St. Martin's financial obligations under the Outline Agreement. Specifically, it includes St. Martin from being responsible, excludes St. Martin from being responsible for the payment of execution costs related to ENNIA, as well as the obligations to the BES and Suriname policyholders. Furthermore, this addendum will yield substantial savings of 37 million guilders for St. Martin. It is important to note that the ENNIA solution is directly tied to the COVID-19 loans. Not approving this would have serious consequences for St. Martin, including inability to make critical investments with the interest norm maximize essential investments such as those for GEBE, Mental Health Foundation, and the prison system would be halted. Additionally, any future investments necessary for the country's infrastructure would be unattainable. Revenue initiatives would be impacted. Initiatives designed to increase St. Martin's revenue, such as the tourist tax, would unfortunately be diverted to cover interest payments on the COVID-19 loans. While the addendum saves St. Martin 37 million guilders in the ENNIA deal, the approval of the ENNIA solution will save St. Martin over 200 million guilders in interest payments on the COVID-19 loans. As I outlined in my presentation, without approval, the interest rate could increase to approximately 6.8%, leading to an additional 12 million guilders in annual interest payments. Over the next 15 years alone, 15 times 12, this would amount to 180 million guilders in additional interest costs, which St. Martin would have to bear because a solution was not approved before October 9th, 2024.
Can you answer the question when you will be able to return, please?
The question, as asked, Madam Chair, through you, would be, I was prepared to come back at 5 o'clock today to answer questions. However, I need to sleep well at night. And Madam Chair, through you, MP Artwell made it a point that he feels the manner in which I am seeking the approval of Parliament without the Council of Ministers' approval is not the way to go. I say, I gave my position on that. I wanted to hear Parliament's view on the matter, and then I would speak to my Council of Ministers. However, I already know that my Council of Ministers would be very happy in signing off to this addendum, knowing the savings that it would bring to the government and the people of St. Martin. And so therefore, I will come back tomorrow, prepared with the answers to the questions posed today and an approved Council of Ministers decision on the addendum.
Thank you, Minister. Seeing that we have heard the statements made by the Minister of Finance, seeing that she can come back tomorrow, for that reason, I will adjourn the meeting until tomorrow. The time will be communicated via the Secretary General. Meeting adjourned.